With patch 2.0 coming to ZenlessZoneZero, we've been introduced to the first ever standard W engine selector, and this will be available to all players once released. Now, although we are also receiving a standard agent selector, this is much different, as owning multiple standard W engines is a lot more rare than owning multiple standard S rank agents. Because of this, your choice of W engine is much more important, so you can progress faster and avoid needing to use weaker A rank engines when possible. In today's video, we'll be breaking down what W engines are better value for multiple agents and team compositions, and we'll also break down things like pros and cons for each W engine as well. Ultimately though, the important thing here is evaluating each W engine so you can avoid putting yourself behind. If this helps, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, but without further ado, here's exactly what you need to know about the upcoming W engine selector. Let's start with Brimstone, Soldier 11's signature W engine. Brimstone is an excellent choice for any DPS agent who spends time on the field using basic attacks. With its high base attack, useful attack percent stat, and a passive that significantly boosts attack again, Brimstone stands out as one of the best and most versatile W engines available. For characters like Zhu, Brimstone can sometimes even match the value of their signature in terms of performance. But additionally, this W engine can also be swapped between multiple agents, making it even more worthwhile to pick up. Truthfully though, the only drawbacks of Brimstone are the lack of crit value and the lack of synergy with agents who are more EX special focused. I'm looking at you, Hugo. But with this, if you don't already own one copy of Brimstone, it is definitely worth considering. Next is Fusion Compiler, Grace's signature W engine. This provides two stats, attack and anomaly proficiency, making it a solid option for anomaly based agents. Its main stat, pen ratio, also works well with agents like Astra or Rina, and while pen ratio adds value when paired with Astra because she already gives plenty of attack and damage percent, Rina also synergizes with this engine as the pen ratio she gives in her kit is further strengthened by the pen ratio of this engine. On a side note, to use this W engine effectively, you will need to make sure to trigger its passive with a special or EX special attack, but overall, Fusion Compiler is a flexible pick for most anomaly agents and a good backup if you're low on W engines in this category. That said, keep in mind that its performance is often equal to or slightly weaker than other A rank W engines like Weeping Gemini, and this of course is a free craftable option. Next, we have Hellfire Gear's Kaleda's signature W engine. This increases the equipped agent's passive energy regen while they're off the field, which can be useful when managed properly. However, the main drawback to this is that its passive requires you to use 2 EX special attacks to fully benefit from its buffs. As a result, this W engine is best on agents like Kaleda, Lycon, and Lighter on occasion. Despite this making it seem like the W engine is less valuable, it is still worth mentioning that it is incredibly useful whenever you need the energy, which is commonly the case for dazers like Lycon in certain team compositions. But as per its passive, you do forfeit one part of its passive value if you aren't able to make use of the off-field energy generation, so keep this in mind when you're using it. Next, we have the Restrained, Lycon's signature W engine. This engine is designed for stun agents who primarily rely on basic attacks to apply daze, and while it may not be the top tier choice right now, it's a solid pick if you're in need of a reliable stun boosting W engine. That said, its use cases are both simple and straightforward. It works best on agents who focus heavily on basic attacks as mentioned earlier. However, as you've probably seen with the daze applied by characters like Trigger or Lighter, and with how certain boss fights are designed, only boosting daze from basic attacks can feel limiting or restrictive. Other W engines by comparison can give more flexible benefits like team-wide buffs or just general daze increases that aren't tied to a specific attack. Next is Weeping Cradle, Rina's signature W engine. This offers a decent damage boost alongside a passive energy regen bonus. However, its biggest drawback is the short duration of its buff, which affects how consistently it can perform. When compared to other A rank W engines, there are definitely more reliable options than this, and for example, Kaboom the Cannon, which also provides energy regen, instead provides an 8-second team-wide attack boost, making it similarly as impactful, while definitely more reliable in different team compositions. Lastly, let's talk about Steel Cushion, Nekomata's signature W engine. Among all the standard choices, this one stands out as the weakest, mainly because of its restrictive passive effect and very niche use cases. To explain why this is the weakest, however, we do need to look at the current state of ZenlessZoneZero. Right now, the game lacks a true S-rank physical damage dealer who can take advantage of a physical-based W engine, and while characters like Jane or Piper are sometimes usable, Steel Cushion doesn't benefit them at all. This means that we're left with just Nekomata Nekomata, Billy, and Corrin as possible users of this W engine. But even here, the fit isn't great. Nekomata's damage output is underwhelming, and Billy already has a stronger personal W engine in the form of Starlight Engine Replica. While Steel Cushion can perform similarly in raw numbers, its passive is much harder to maintain since it requires hitting enemies from behind consistently, which is honestly pretty difficult to do in practice. This narrows down its potential users, however, to just Corrin and Nekomata, but unfortunately both are currently less effective or comfortable to play when it comes to consistent damage. That said, with recent changes like Ellen receiving her Lost Void kit as a buff, there is a possibility that agents like Corrin or Nekomata could be improved in the future. As for the W engine itself, the crit rate stat is decent, but the conditional passive really holds itself back. In the end, it's hard to recommend Steel Cushion over more versatile options like Brimstone, which offer broader value with fewer limitations, so unfortunately this is definitely an engine that I would pass over, as either A rank engines or other S rank engines of its same category will definitely perform equally as well. Now that we've covered the W engines available in the Selector, let's discuss which ones might be more relevant after the 2.0 patch, especially with the arrival of Yi Xuan, Jufufu, and Pan Yinhu. Starting with Yi Xuan, and from what's been revealed in the trailer, she introduces both a new element and a new class type. To be more specific, this is the new attribute type known as Auric Ink and the new class known as Rupture. With this being the case, none of the current W engines will be usable on her specifically, but that said, supportive agents paired alongside Yi Xuan might be able to make use of W engines like Hellfire gears, Restrained, or even Weeping Cradle. Despite this, however, Yi Xuan and her likely best in slot teams will not make the best use of the standard W engine Selector, since most of these agents will prefer their signatures, an A rank alternative, or use a previously already had S rank limited in place of these standard ones. Now, despite Pan Yinhu having a more normal class and attribute typing, he is also similar to Yi Xuan in the sense that he also doesn't necessarily have a perfect W engine choice from this Selector. Instead, however, you could either take Brimstone, Fusion Compiler, or even Steel Cushion as your choice, but this is more dependent on your DPS than it is on Pan Yinhu. If you're looking to pair Pan with someone like Haramasa, Brimstone is a great option here, but if you were instead to pair him with someone like Jane, Fusion Compiler is the only engine from this list that could work on her. That said, for both Fusion Compiler and Steel Cushion, these are honestly two W engines that typically have free craftable A ranks that compete at similar levels, and as a result, these choices feel slightly worse from a DPS perspective. Similar to Yi Xuan once again though, Pan may also find success with stunners on his team, and with this, taking Hellfire gears and using it alongside someone like Pulchra can definitely be viable, especially if her own box cutters isn't available. Next, we have Jufufu, who is also confirmed to be a fire attribute stun agent. Based on what was shown in the 2.0 livestream, her gameplay heavily focuses on EX specials and basic attacks, and because of this, W engines like Restrained or even Hellfire gears could potentially pair well with her, depending on how reliant she is on energy and how her basic attacks interact with daze. Given that she does also spend time off field to deal damage, daze, and buffer allies, it is very likely that Hellfire gears will also perform decently with her, but once again, W engines like Steam Oven or even something like Precious Fossilized Core are very likely to work well with her, but we'll have to see exactly how these interact once she releases in 2.0. Another major change coming with 2.0's release is the update to Ellen Jo and her buffs. As part of her upcoming event, Shark Frenzy, Ellen will receive a kit rework that includes several major changes. The most notable of these is her additional ability, with it now being changed to pair with the stun agents. This significantly increases her team synergy options, allowing her to activate the extra 30% ice damage bonus in more team compositions, but to showcase just how strong this really will be, this will now allow her to make full use of the powerful Ellen Astra lighter team composition that formerly provided massive crit damage, element damage percent buffs, but did force Ellen to lose her additional ability. With all of these conditions now active, Brimstone will become a much better option for Ellen in this team, since she would otherwise be stacking a ton of damage percent in that lineup. Side note, this isn't to say that Ellen's signature would necessarily be worse than Brimstone, but it's something to keep in mind when making your choice for this team especially. Now, as for my personal recommendations, I'd suggest first taking a moment to consider that several older characters like Ellen and Kaleda are expected to receive updates soon, which could shift the value of the current standard W engines. Because of this, there's definitely value in waiting until 2.0 releases and waiting for more information to be available before locking in a choice. But that said, if you're looking for a safe and reliable pick right when 2.0 launches, Brimstone is one of the strongest options. It works well as a general attack stat stick for agents like Ellen, Soldier 11, or even Haramasa, Haramasa, as these agents can activate its passive easily. But while it doesn't offer any crit related bonuses, its passive does even add good value just to said characters, while also just having solid stats too. If you're considering more utility or support type agents like Kaleda or Lycon, engines like Restrained or Hellfire gears that focus on daze can also hold value. But as mentioned earlier, many of these stun, anomaly, or support oriented standard W engines are fairly niche and often compete with A rank alternatives that perform just as well. That's why Brimstone really does just stand out. It offers the most consistent value among the options, and it's usable by Ellen, who is set to receive an update soon, and Haramasa, who of course is free. But despite all this, it's still valid to choose another W engine, especially if it brings one of your W engines from rank 1 to rank 2 or higher. Just remember, most agents have a free A rank W engine that performs within 5 to 10% of said standard options, and Brimstone is the one choice, unlike the others, that pretty consistently outperforms these A ranks, making it an amazing pick overall. That's going to wrap up our breakdown of the standard W engines available in the Selector and how they might change in 2.0's release, however, and whether you're looking to future-proof your account or simply want the most value on a W engine right now, making the right choice here can make a big difference in your team's overall performances and your account's progression as a whole. Keep in mind that future agents may also change the value of this Selector, and upcoming buffs can definitely influence how well certain W engines can perform, but more than anything else, just remember that the best choice for every account will be different, as there are many factors to consider when choosing from this Selector. That's going to be it for today's video though, guys. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.